So, full disclosure, we recorded earlier this afternoon the latest episode of the Heron Outlet. That was prior to the news that broke this afternoon. Phil Neville out as head coach at Inter Miami. So, Alex and I wanted to do basically an emergency pod. Understanding it, you can still listen to and watch the pod. There's a lot of great information there about what to do to fix Inter Miami and how you can move forward from here. But since the news has broke this afternoon, we wanted to sit down and talk. So, Alex, let's just start there. First initial feelings of Phil Neville, no longer the head coach at Inter Miami.
Yeah, it was inevitable. The fan backlash was, building, and you saw the banners and the social media messages and the booing and the frustrations. And really, it was only a matter of time. And if you listen to, read the press release from Jorge Mas and Chris Henderson, they were, they are ambitious, and the way the team was playing, it wasn't going to fly much longer, even though despite all the things Neville did for the team and, stabilizing it in 2021, 2022, that crazy year where they started 0-5 and getting into the playoffs. Yeah, now Miami, I think I mentioned this on another pod, they're in a transition era now. Next year the sanctions end. This summer they're in for Messi, Busquets, and Miami Freedom Park will come, and they're just transitioning into a new era now. And it feels like Neville was the last of the old Inter Miami with the sanctions and all. And I think that going forward now with the rest of 2023 and into 2024, they're trying to turn a new leaf, and be the Inter Miami 2.0 at this point. So yeah, it was inevitable. Neville's a great guy, very likable, a great communicator, but tactically, it showed on the field. The soccer was boring, and it just felt like the players mentally gave up, really.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing that you bring up that I would have liked to have seen what Phil Neville could have done with this roster without those sanctions. What he and Chris Henderson, who arrived together, could have done without those sanctions. We'll never know, and that will never be a part of the equation. But I think sometimes that we get caught up in getting tired of the sanctions. They are the largest sanctions in MLS history, and that did handicap a lot of what this team was able to do, especially with retaining Alejandro Pozuelo, which I think now everybody looking back on it wish that the club could have done. The injuries to Gregory and Mota, once that went, I think the writing was kind of on the wall here. So Phil, like you said, is a great guy. Built in my opinion, the best locker room in MLS. Something that could have dealt with those 5-game losses and come back from the wins each time. And a group that is very tight and very close together, and will now use those lessons that they learned under him to find a way through this ship now. Javi Morales comes in as the interim head coach. Jason Kreis, the primary assistant coach under Phil Neville, leaves as well. And from Javi, what we've seen is a lot of the stuff that Neville had been pushing for in most of his tenure, relying on the youth, developing players through the academy and the second team into the primary. Javi Morales has a lot of experience doing that. And so I expect for the rest of the season for you to see a lot of that, however long that interim tag is held for. I think now you'll see a global search for Inter Miami for their next head coach. Even some of the names being thrown out right now, I don't know if there's necessarily a list that we're following right now, but this will be a global search for Miami moving forward.
Yeah, you already see some names from fans, being thrown out. Tata Martino, Jose Mourinho, which is, some of these are pipe dreams. But yeah, like you said, it's going to be a global search, and I don't think they'll make the same mistake. I think what they did with Alonso and Neville. I think this next coach will have his say in, or her say in DP players, or and the extra allocation money that they'll have going into 2024. They'll have a real chance to flush out the roster. And I think you mentioned this in another pod. A lot of these contracts will be expiring in
Yeah.
2024 as well. Nick Marsman is one of them. I believe there are a couple others that are escaping me right now, but a lot of these big contracts that, were signed in 2020 or 2021, they're expiring. So they'll have some extra wiggle room in the roster. So whoever this next coach is, they'll have free reign, and maybe Messi and Busquets to add to that too. So yeah, it's an interesting time for Inter Miami, but it's critical that they need to get it right this time, because that you can't go through that cycle that you did with Alonso and Neville again. You have to get the roster correct and the coaching correct.
Marsman is one that's off the books. Even LGP, who they're still paying right now,
Yeah.
comes off the books next year. So that leaves me with two final questions for you, Alex. The first is obviously the Messi question and the Busquets question to a certain extent. But how much does this impact what fans are looking for with the rumors of Lionel Messi? You and I have talked about this in private a lot. And how much do you think that this will impact the Lionel Messi addition possibly to Inter Miami?
Yeah, I think, well, it's not dissimilar to Messi's situation at PSG where Christophe Gaultier was the coach and, maybe he wasn't the best fit. And, I'm sure Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe wouldn't mind seeing him leave. So I think a lot of people saying, well, now the coaching vacuum will make Messi less likely to come. No, Messi's not coming here, or if he comes here for sporting reasons, it's going to be for business. Yes, sporting reasons, but mainly business, family, trying to grow his brand here and maybe get ready for the Copa America in 2024. So, yes, it is sporting reasons, but I don't think whoever is the coach will have a big say on, where Messi lands, whether it's Barcelona or Saudi Arabia or wherever. But yeah, I don't think it'll affect anything. If anything, this is an opportunity to tailor the coach to Messi if he does come. So, which has its own risks on its own, but they just have an opportunity to find a manager that can really just wrangle all those personalities and playing styles, and maybe get rid of some that don't fit what the next manager is going to do. And yeah, they just have an open opportunity here, and it'll be exciting to see how Chris Henderson will finally be able to operate with the manager of his choice and the ownership choice, and it'll be interesting to see.
I think that you hit the nail on the head there 100%. And that these two things are divorced from one another. Phil Neville being the coach and the potential of Messi, Busquets, the names that have been thrown out arriving are not linked in the way that some have been trying to make it. I think that Messi coming is independent of Phil Neville being the coach right now. The final question that I have for you in terms of this Phil Neville era is, where did he go wrong? Where could the next manager or even Javi in the interim find some success that Phil was unable to find in this squad?
I think that Neville just, well, number one, just a fluctuation of his formations and tactics. For instance, this season he came in wanting to be an attacking possession-based side. We're gonna play. Everyone remember when everyone was hyping that 4-3-1-2 with the two strikers and who's gonna be the 10. And Stefanelli came in and we were huddled in the rain asking Stefanelli if he could play that 10. And then suddenly it switched with due to injuries. And injuries aren't Neville's fault, but as a manager, you have to adapt. And he try the back three, try the 4-4-2. This past game we saw a 4-2-2-2, and it never really stuck. And his tactics were never completely sound. And even the players that he brought in himself, it was always flip flopping, and there was never really consistency. Inconsistency would be the word that I would label his tenure here, whether it be the winning streak and then they'll go on like these 5-game losing streaks and vice versa. It was just inconsistent. And, Miami didn't have an identity or style. Under Miami, under Phil Neville, they didn't really have an identity, and no one could tell anyone how, they played on the field tactically. So, yeah, that the inconsistency would be my word. And yeah, we wish Phil Neville the best of luck because he's always been super nice to the media, and accepted criticism when it was due. And yeah, wherever he lands, I hope it's a good job for him.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that where it kind of went wrong, we discussed this in the pod actually. So if you can listen back to it, that there really wasn't ever the understanding of accountability. There was the talk of accountability, but there never was the follow through on the understanding of this is the change that is going to happen because I'm realizing what is wrong in this squad. There was a lot of, well, we should have won that game. Well, we should have been up 3-0 at halftime. Well, we aren't taking the most of our opportunities. And that might be right. He might be 100% correct in that. But at the end of the day, isn't accountability. It is saying, well, we should have done this. So we're going to roll out the same thing next time because we think in the aggregate it's going to win time and time again. And that never seemed to really manifest itself in a way that produced the results necessary for him to continue here at Inter Miami. I will say, however, 2022 Inter Miami finishes sixth in the Eastern Conference, best season in or club history. This season, they are in the quarterfinals. They will play for a spot in the semifinals in the U.S. Open Cup. Best run in club history in that competition. So Phil Neville definitely did have his successes at this club. Unfortunately, in the end, wasn't enough. We do wish him the best. Like you said, was always a very class act to us, to the media, even when we disagreed with him, even when others disagreed with him for the most part. But especially interacting with us, definitely a classy guy and one who we wish the best. You can check out the full pod. We encourage you to do so. A lot of further conversation about what is next for Inter Miami, how to get out of this rut, what is on deck for DC United, what is on deck for the Open Cup against Birmingham, all of that still, but we wanted to give you this quick emergency pod so that you had it understood that all of this is moving just like you guys know. We are finding out information in real time. There is media availability tomorrow morning. I will be there to see what happens in terms of what is planned. We were scheduled to talk to Phil Neville tomorrow morning. Who knows? We are yet to know what is going on with that situation, but I'll
Probably
bring it to
Javier.
you. Yeah, yeah. We'll find out tomorrow morning and bring it to you on the Heron Outlet, on our Twitter, on our Instagram. You can catch the article about the Neville firing, all the quotes from Henderson, Moss, Beckham, and Phil himself, as well as some insight into what happened. For our producer Andres, for Austin Roblard, she is Alex Winley. I am Ian Hess. This is the Heron Outlet, and we'll see you back here later.